Hi guys, welcome back to Origami Twist. My name's Jen, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to use a rubber stamp to create a beautiful embossed image on tissue. Now you can use regular tissues, or you could use toilet paper for this one. You could even use tissue paper if you want to. It's totally up to you what material you use, but essentially you're using really thin paper built up over layers to create a three-dimensional image. Now, you'll notice that my example here is brown. That's because I was in a hurry and I used my heat gun, and I think I may have singed it a little bit. But if you use a clear drying adhesive, yours won't be brown. It'll be the color of whatever your adhesive is when it dries. Now, when you choose your stamp to create your image, you want to make sure you're using something that has a medium sort of density to it, and that will be easy to get into the nooks and crannies of. An example of a good one to use would be this swirl stamp from Stampin' Up. I wouldn't recommend, however, using a stamp that has a lot of detail, such as this elephant from Stampin' Up. And that's because you won't get a crisp image. Now, it's totally worth trying if it's something you like, but you may find it to be a bit challenging. For adhesive today, I'm using gloss Mod Podge, and I actually got this in the dollar spot at Target in, let's see, it was at the end of December 2015, so hopefully, I wonder if they're still there. Be worth checking out anyway. But Mod Podge can be purchased at any craft store. I would also say that you could totally use something like PVC, or is it PVC? PVA glue, or white Elmer's glue, school glue. I'd water it down a little bit, but that should work just as well. You need some sort of an adhesive that, as I said before, will dry clear and that's water-based. And the reasoning for that is that you don't want residue from the glue to stay stuck to your stamp, because you want to be able to use it for stamping later. So you want something that can be easily washed off with soap and water or stamp cleaner. And of course, when you're finished, you do want to make sure you clean that stamp and clean your brushes out really well so that you can reuse them in the future. Okay, so this detailed stamp is out. We'll use this stamp, and I'm going to take a regular tissue, and I'm being careful to use one that doesn't have lotion or scent to it. Okay, so I have folded this tissue in half and then in half again, and I'm just going to cut through to make 4 layers of tissue. And I believe this is either single or 2-ply Kleenex brand tissue. It really doesn't matter what you're using. You can use whatever you've got. As I said, try to avoid ones with lotion and that sort of thing. And then I'm going to cut it in half again. And then I'm going to stack them all up, and I'm going to cut it in half again. Now, the reason I'm going to this size is because of the size of my stamp. You may need to make your squares or rectangle or whatever shape you're cutting larger or smaller based on the size of your stamp. And one tissue will do 2 of these images, and with a little bit to spare. And you can build it up as thick as you want, so it's totally up to you how many layers you end up using. Now, I've got a little bit of Mod Podge in this little container here, and to start, I'm just going to lay the tissue over the top of the stamp, and then I'm going to apply the glue to the center of the stamp. And the reasoning for that is to work out the air bubbles that are created when you start to go into the shape. And I'm using a pouncing motion similar to what you'd use if you were stenciling something. So up and down to work the glue into all the little nooks and crannies of the stamp. And then as you work, you're going to work your way out to the edge. Now, you're totally going to want to play this by ear. If it appears that you've got a lot of glue on there, you may be able to just add another sheet. If it isn't particularly sticky, you may want to put a bit more glue before adding the next layer. And as you do this a few times, you'll find that sweet spot, you know, where you've got exactly how many you want. So I'm doing another layer. If you're using a 2-ply tissue, you may be able to put both tissues down at the same time. Again, it depends on how thick your tissue is and how well it absorbs that glue that you're applying. And then you just keep going until you're happy with the thickness of your embossed image. And the thicker it is, the stronger it's going to be. So if you want to make jewelry with this, which you absolutely can, you're probably going to want to use more layers of tissue to create a more three-dimensional and a more sturdy final piece. If you want to use this on a scrapbook page, you'll just use less layers. And as I say, you just keep applying, starting at the center, pouncing, and working your way out. And that pouncing motion, I'm actually being pretty gentle here, and that's so that I don't tear the tissue while I'm working with it. However, if you do tear it, no big deal, just add another layer. It will dry beautifully because you're using so many layers that you won't even notice. Okay, I think I'm going to do one more. And then once we finish this last piece, I recommend letting it dry very slightly, either with a heat gun, which you obviously have to be very careful with because I singed mine, either with a heat gun or just a little bit of time. But you don't want it to dry completely because you do want to be able to get that glue off of your stamp in a reasonable amount of time. So when you're ready to remove them, you're just going to gently peel all the layers at one time off of the stamp. And then allow it to dry, and while you're allowing it to dry, make sure you wash your stamp off either with soap and water or with a good stamp cleaner. And if you're using a stamp cleaner and a stamp pad scrubber, make sure you also wash the stamp pad scrubber immediately as well, because you don't want the glue to end up drying into your scrubber as well. And simultaneously wash those brushes and let your finished product dry. You're not going to be making the same face. I know that for sure. Oh, thanks for the popcorn, babe. Ooh. While I was washing those Stampin' brushes, my husband brought me some popcorn. That's exciting. Okay, so there's the final product. And notice how it's not singed. So you let it air dry and it should be fine. All right, here we go. This is the finished product. And you can see the nice crisp lines where the stamp was impressed into it. And that's what the back looks like, where you pounced on it with the paintbrush. So you've got two different looks there. Now I have not experienced any problems using Mod Podge or white glue with my stamps. You obviously want to be careful what you're using on them. It wasn't originally intended for them, etc., etc. So, you know, be careful with what you're using glue on. However, as long as you clean it up really, really well afterwards, it's, you know, my stamps have lasted for almost 20 years, and I did these, this sort of project back in the day. I hope you guys have a really great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday with another video. If you'd like to see techniques like this in the future, please press like, let me know in the comments, and of course subscribe, as I will have many more videos coming in the future. All right, take care guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.